zaman. Hoş geldiniz. Güven Çatak, BAU Lab direktörüyüm. Bugün çok özel bir gün. Bu videoyla başlamak istedim çünkü bundan 3 yıl önce de bu videoyla başlamıştık ve bu videoyu göstererek bir anlamda özellikle bağımsız oyun geliştiricileri aslında bir araya topladık. Şimdi de bugünden itibaren bu sefer yeni bir komünite kurulumu söz konusu. Bu sefer de sanal gerçeklik, Virtual Reality Turkey platformu aslında bir anlamda bugünle birlikte kuruluyor. Bu etkinlik, bu platformun ilk etkinliği. O yüzden de biraz heyecanlıyız ve bu kadar insanı bir arada görmek de elbette çok güzel. Zaten güzel bir program var, o yüzden çok uzatmak istemiyorum. Tekrar hoş geldiniz. Sadece şunu söylemek istiyorum. Virtual Reality çok özel bir alan ve özellikle Türkiye için geç kalmadığımız bir alan. Zaten bununla ilgili şimdi birçok size bilgi aktarılacak. Ama bu geç kalmama meselesi çok önemli ve çok iyi bir motivasyon olduğunu düşünüyorum. Size Sami'yi tanıtmak istiyorum. Now I'd like to introduce Sami Hamid, who is one of the founders of the Virtual Reality Turkey platform. Welcome, Sami.
Thank you very much for that. Well, good afternoon everybody and welcome to our event today looking at the current state of virtual reality. My name is Sami Hamid and I am part of an indie development team based here in Istanbul looking at both the gaming and the non-gaming applications for virtual reality. I'm also a VR evangelist, which means I'm helping to promote the virtual reality community here in Istanbul and raise general awareness about VR across Turkey in general. Now this initiative is being called Virtual Reality Turkey. We have a Facebook page, we have a meetup group, we're working with some organizations and some individuals to make sure that next year, Turkey is not just a consumer of virtual reality, but actually a producer of quality VR content as well. So we have a super exciting lineup for you guys and girls today. I'm going to kick us off looking at VR 101, the current state of virtual reality. So if you're a student, if you're a developer, if you're someone who just got lost today in Bahçeşehir, want to know a bit more about VR, we're going to be covering all the basics. And then I'm going to hand over to Serhat, the general manager of Crytek Istanbul, who's going to delve a little deeper into the super exciting focus that Crytek are happening around VR this year, next year and beyond. And then we're very honored to have Frank Witz, who's joined us all the way down from Europe, who's going to be delving into what it means to ride this next virtual reality wave. And then Reddy from Code Modion is going to be joining us to talk about what it means to develop content and make an impact for audience in virtual reality. I want to say thank you to Bahçeşehir, Bagla, to Güven for...
Yeah, I just like to, I'm seeing that more and more people are coming. We also have another room in the second floor, which we are broadcasting live this event. So you can also go to the second floor if you don't want to stand. Thank you.
There are some seats at the front, guys. There are some seats, so do feel free. There are benches over here as well. So don't be embarrassed. Come around. There are some seats here, so we'll definitely make space for everybody. So as I was saying, big thank you to Bagla, Bahçeşehir University for hosting us here today. Very big thank you also to Crytek and Code Modion, who is sharing the stage with me today. And also a very big thank you to Oyunda for helping organize this event. So it's been a real joint collaboration to get this community event off the ground. So without further ado, VR 101, the current state of virtual reality. Take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed, and you can believe whatever you want to believe. Take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I will show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. And these were the words spoken by Morpheus to Neo in the film The Matrix, moments before showing him the computer-generated world in which he lived. A world that was so real it tapped into each and every one of your senses, from sound to sight to even touch. A world that had presence. When you were there, you truly felt that you were in that computer-generated wonderland. And these are the goals of virtual reality. And they've been the goals of virtual reality for a very, very long time. But before we jump into VR, what it is and where it's going, let's just kind of backtrack a little bit back to the beginning, all the way back to the 1970s, where kind of computer-generated graphics and the video game industry as a whole saw its birth, and of course that was with Pong, the black and white video game from the 1970s. There were many milestones after that, including Donkey Kong in 1981, and of course Super Mario Brothers in 1983 by Nintendo. And games started to develop beyond that and jumped out of the 2D and into the 3D with Wolfenstein 3D, designed by John Romero and John Carmack. Now this is a change of pace for video games, because now not only are you watching it, but you're actually playing it through the eyes of the player. So this is kind of like the birthplace for immersion. And this immersion developed as we move forward. This is Quake from 1996. Players could now use a mouse to move their head around. And then Half-Life after that raised the bar even further with graphics fidelity, AI, better stories, things like that. And into 2000s, we have obviously the Elder Scrolls series, Skyrim 2011, which puts the player in this immersive world, a world that has its own characters, own stories. You can kind of build your life within this digital world. But where can we go from here? Where can we go from here? You know, we can get better graphics, yes. We can get better gameplay, yes. We can get better AI. But at the core of a video game is the desire to want to immerse a player in a virtual world. And as long as the world is stuck behind a monitor, we're never going to make it. Now this journey for full immersion is not very new. It's actually about 45 years old. The first head-mounted display, or HMD, was from the 1960s. It was a military application used in the Air Force. But the story that we're all familiar with began in the 1980s with a company called VPL Research. And many people say the founder of this company, his name was Jaron Lanier, was the grandfather of virtual reality today. You can see here his input device, the data glove, and the head-mounted display, which was actually called the iPhone. So the first iPhone was not an Apple product, it was actually a VR device. And then of course over the 1990s, many people started to jump on the VR bandwagon. You have here Sega coming in with their virtual helmet. There were many games for this. There was Nuclear Rush, Iron Hammer, Matrix Runner. And they added more excitement to this kind of booming industry over the 1990s. Virtuality were a very big player. They came out with a number of games, multiplayer, networked virtual reality games, so they were the first. And were kind of successful. They had 43 million plays and were available in 17 countries, so it wasn't a small gig. But it was still not consumer affordable. You could not afford a virtual reality product, it was very expensive. So, in 1995, Nintendo entered the scene with what they had as the Virtual Boy. And I'm sure many of you guys and girls know it was an absolute failure. The Virtual Boy was criticized for having bad graphics, bad games, no head tracking, and just made you feel sick after 10 minutes of playing it. So with the death of the Virtual Boy in 1995, we saw the disappearance of consumer virtual reality. It disappeared. Went back to universities, went back to research and development centers, and many people could say VR had a bit of an epic fail. But why did it have this epic fail? Why did VR fail in 1995? Well, Jaron Lanier, the grandfather of VR, said it came down to a number of reasons, including really lacking an understanding of how to develop for virtual reality, really bad head tracking, very bad screen resolutions, developers not knowing how to develop, really super heavy, super expensive hardware. So there were a bunch of reasons why it failed in the 1990s. So, here we are, 20 years since VR's first epic fail. Why is it going to succeed this time? Why is VR going to make it come 2016? Well, there's a number of reasons we think it's going to work. First is technology. For technology, we're finally at a point where, thank you to mobile phone technology, screen resolutions, and gyroscopes, size of the technology is at a point where we can show good VR. I'm not going to say great VR, I'm going to show good VR. And this good VR is only going to get better over the next few years. The cost is also now very affordable. Very affordable. For a long time, VR was locked away at universities, locked away at research and development institutions around the world, but it was never a consumer product because it was too expensive. But I ask you all a question. Put your hand up if you own a smartphone. Who has a smartphone here? Okay, most people. Who owns a laptop or a desktop? Again, most people. Welcome to the modern world. You own the technology to run VR. There's nothing special there, and that technology is only going to get cheaper moving forward. The content. The content is super key. The content was pretty crap in the 1990s, but thank you to engines like the CryEngine, thank you to Unity 3D, Unreal, thank you to the internet, where we can now share assets, code, experience, knowledge. Thank you to the boom of the indie development scene. We can all create for VR, and it's super key. It's great that Crytek and other big players are developing, but it's even more important we as the developing community develop for virtual reality. And who's going to ride this virtual reality rocket? Well, a lot of people in this room, the same people that grew up with mobile phones, touch screens, the same people that grew up with the internet and social media. The millennial generation will be the people that will be using this technology. So, big players, 2016, who are we going to see? I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but I'm going to go through it very quickly. Oculus Rift, a Kickstarter project by an 18-year-old kid called Palmer Luckey. He raised $2.4 million in 2011. 3 years later, his company was purchased for $2 billion by Facebook. Big difference. Project Morpheus, Sony's answer to the console virtual reality. Really interesting one actually, because as you know, the PlayStation is a very, very average PC. So they managed to take a very average PC and build immersive virtual reality. HTC Vive, a partnership with HTC, the Taiwanese company, and Valve. Many of you know Valve, the creators of Steam. 125 million users on Steam. So this will be the gaming answer to virtual reality. And along with all the bigger players, there are some smaller players. I'm going to mention really briefly. Star VR are doing uber large screen resolutions, 5K, so it's going to be requiring probably a beast of a computer to run. OSVR, open source virtual reality, is a group of students, academics, corporations, all coming together to make virtual reality open source hardware and software. And the Fove, this is one of my little favorites, I'm quite excited about this for next year, is using eye tracking technology. So at the moment, you guys are all going to try some of the things that we have going on here, but you're going to notice that you need to move your head if you want to look around in VR. With the Fove, you just have to move your eyes. So this is going to be a real interesting piece of technology we see next year. Now, along with all these big players, PC players, console players, there's also a lot of mobile virtual reality that's coming out. And this actually was born out of the idea of two Google employees. They said, okay, how can we make cheap VR? How can we make VR that's going to be accessible for everybody? And they did that by taking a piece of cardboard, some Velcro, some plastic lenses, and they made a virtual reality helmet. Open it up, put your phone in, close it, and you're good to go. Very cheap, very affordable VR. Now this gave birth to mobile VR as we know it. There are a lot of players now. Here's the Free Fly, same concept, plastic, better lenses, some straps. The idea is still the same. You open it up, put your phone in, and you're good to go. The main player in this market is the Samsung Gear. Some of you might have heard of it. They are a little bit different though, because the headset actually has additional hardware in there. When you put in your phone, you load it up. It's a bit more of an augmented virtual reality experience. Loads of players, Carl Zeiss, LG are entering the market. There's rumors Apple are too, just rumors though. We'll see what happens there. So, what does that actually mean? Well, in a nutshell, mobile VR, super cheap, super affordable. €5 for a Google Cardboard, €40 for a Free Fly, €100 for a Carl Zeiss. Pretty average. Experience, pretty acceptable. In the middle, hybrid VR, Samsung Gear, better experience. Still using a mobile phone, but putting it into a more advanced headset. €200, I think the price is at the moment, but much deeper immersion. Tethered VR is at the top of this. So that is the Oculus, the Vive, this is the Sony Project Morpheus. Much more immersion, but of course, much more expensive. I'm guessing, and this is just my guess here, because none of the hardware have announced their pricing, it's going to be between €300 to €500 for the headset, and will require a pretty powerful graphics card. And this kind of highlights a bit of a conflict that's happening in the VR industry, which you should be aware of, which is quantity versus quality. Some people are saying we need quality, we need to have amazing experiences, like back to Dinosaur Island 2. We need to have these amazing experiences so people are like, wow, I want to buy VR. Some people are saying no, we need to have cheap VR. VR has to be affordable and accessible for everybody. Now, both arguments are kind of right, but they also have some problems as well. If it's all about quality, it's going to be too expensive. It's never going to become a consumer product. If it's only about quantity, it's always going to be cheap, and it's never going to be a consumer product. So it's going to be a mix of all of this to see success next year. So, VR is not just computer-generated world. It's important to highlight it is also 360 immersive video, and that is where you are taking yourself and you're putting yourself in the middle of the action. You are the director of your own movie. And this is achieved by usually rigging 6 GoPros together, putting on some fisheye lenses, stitching it, and then putting it around the skybox in, say, Unity 3D. A lot of big players are entering this market. Viridio are like a YouTube, just doing 360 VR videos. YouTube have also recently announced their own 360 platform as well. VR Live TV are doing live sporting events, they're doing live concerts, all in 360. BBC News are looking at ways that we can put the news into virtual reality. Some ethical questions there, but should be quite interesting. And Jaunt are doing movies only in 360. So I'm sure you can start to see there are many, many ways of applying virtual reality. It's not just gaming. Gaming's going to be big. I'm excited about the gaming. Many people here are excited about the gaming. But there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Real estate. Just imagine showing your client the property in VR before they visit it. Tourism. At the moment, the Marriott Hotel Group are allowing you to book your trips in VR before you actually go. Fashion, Dior are making their own headset, their Dior VR headset. Therapy is going to be a big one. How do you tackle anxiety, phobia, depression in virtual reality? Education is going to be a really important one as well. Google launched something called Google Expeditions. And they have rolled this out to some schools in the US. And this is where children will be using the Google Cardboard to visit places together, guided by their teacher, under the ocean, in outer space, into the desert, wherever. And it's been a huge success. So VR in education is going to be a big one come next year. Sporting events, you miss your Galatasaray match, you miss your Beşiktaş match, pop on your VR headset, in you go, don't miss a thing. Movies, big one, a lot of studios are already jumping on that. And of course, porno. Always at the forefront of every industry, be it cinema, be it internet, be it VHS, they're obviously moving very quickly into this new technology. So, and I promise you, this is the only graph, the boring graph I'm going to show you today. What are we going to see here in VR over the next 5 years? Well, if we look at Geoffrey Moore's technology life cycle, which means how does a population pick up a new technology, this is what we're looking like. At the moment, I think I should have a laser button here. Ta-da! At the moment, we are in the innovators' time, which means not many people have tried VR. Not many people own any VR equipment. Everything that we have in that room there are development kits. There is no consumer product yet. Next year, the situation is going to change. Early adopters, which means hardcore gamers, which means maybe some marketing campaigns that are going to be done by some brands, maybe some education initiatives, maybe some VR studios are going to open. I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few. There'll be some media coverage as well. Early adoption will begin in 2017 and go for the next 3 years, and that means where you're going to see VR everywhere. It will be at school, it will be at your home, it might be in your work depending on your industry, it'll be at events, it'll be at conferences, it'll be in shops, supermarkets, maybe not supermarkets, but definitely shopping malls. It will be mainstream. And then finally, of course, the laggards, which means the people that are not so up to technology standards, they'll be picking it up. Now, you guys must be wondering, what is this? Well, with every new technology, there is hype, excitement. There is people believing you can use VR however you want to use VR. And it's a bit of a bubble. It is a bit of a bubble. And we're in that bubble now. A lot of crap developers are producing a lot of crap content. And there will be a bust. And when I mean crap content, I literally mean crap content. This is VR toilet simulator. Poop, pee, flush. So, these kinds of things will not be working come next year. But as the technology matures, we will see a point where how we're using it matches expectations of the general public. In terms of numbers, difficult to say. Some people are saying by the end of 2016, 15 million headsets will be sold, 18, nearly 40. Size of the market, 2.3 billion for hardware, 4.3 billion for software. But this is all very new. So I think these figures are changing if they're not already changed already. So, I'm going to wrap up because I'm conscious of time. Input devices. These are the challenges that VR are going to be facing moving forward. You cannot use a mouse and keyboard with virtual reality. We will be today, but you'll find that next year it needs a new form of technology to really work. These are the lighthouse systems by, oops, this little thing, oh, there we go. This is the lighthouse system by Valve. This button thing is crazy. These are the half moons by Oculus. And these will be the new ways we interact with virtual reality. Motion sickness is a big one. Hopefully everyone here is going to be okay today. We should be fine. Motion sickness is a problem when your body is not moving, but you're accelerating in the virtual reality experience. It can make some people feel a bit sick. So these kind of things need to be solved when we move forward. Getting your body into VR. You wouldn't know it, but your body acts as a point of reference for everything. You judge distance, you judge size, you judge depth, all in relation to your own body. And if it's missing, it breaks immersion. But challenges equal disruptive innovation. John Carmack, some of you might know, the father of Doom, the father of Quake, Wolfenstein 3D Rage. he's now the CTO of Oculus, is saying this is now a time of experimentation. Just as we had experimentation in the 1990s, when the hardware was not ready for the technology, now we are experimenting with how we can break or go beyond the technology while we wait for it to catch up. And so finally, what are we looking to see on the horizon? Well, augmented reality. This is Microsoft's HoloLens. Don't expect this as a consumer product for at least another 3 to 4 years. Could be quite exciting though. You know, all these things are just kind of projected into your real world. Haptics are also a really big one. And that means, how do you feel the virtual world? Some people don't think you can really be in the virtual world until you can feel it. But as you can see, it's still very much a prototype. But I'm sure the porno industry is working very, very hard to fix this problem as we speak. So I'm going to wrap up there, but I want to say it's a super exciting time to be working in virtual reality. It's really a pioneering industry. And we are always looking for interested people. If you're a developer, if you're a designer, if you're an artist, if you want to get involved in some virtual reality projects, if you want to have some VR projects on your portfolio, come and talk to the team. Talk to me, talk to one of the team that are in the other room. Let us get you involved in some VR projects and some experience. We have some upcoming events. We're going to have a global event with other VR groups around the world on the 25th of July. In August, we're going to have an event with Oculus, which is super exciting. And in September, hopefully, we'll be organizing a virtual reality jam as well. So I'm going to say thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to hand over the floor now to Serhat, the General Manager of Crytek Istanbul, who's going to be talking a little bit about the super exciting focus that Crytek has on this industry. So thank you very much, everybody.
Hey everyone, I'll start with English for our YouTube viewers. My presentation is mostly focusing on the Turkish developers, so I'm going to continue in Turkish. But you can watch our GDC and E3 demos, and most of the stuff, even you don't understand, will give a little bit insight. Frank, after me, our creative director for CryEngine, is going to cover most of the stuff in English. But my presentation is mostly focusing our Turkish developers and enthusiasts here. So thank you. Merhabalar herkese. Evet, nerede? Sorry. Bayağı kalabalığız ilk event için, oldukça sevindirici. Crytek İstanbul'un kurucu ve genel müdürüyüm. Türkiye'de 3 yıldır Crytek oyunlarının pazarlamasıyla uğraşıyoruz ama özellikle son 1 yıldır bu VR üzerindeki çalışmalar Türkiye için bizi de bayağı heyecanlandırdı. Neler yaptık onları paylaşacağım sizinle. Evet, çalışıyor. Bu görüntüleri hatırlayan var mı aranızda? Fan var orada bir tane. Exile, evet. Crytek'in kökünde CryEngine'in ilk demosunun yapıldığı görüntüler Dinozor Adası'nda. Bu görüntüler aslında Nvidia ile olan ilk görüşmeden sonra 3D dünyasında birçok şeyi değiştirdi. Farkında olduğunuzu düşünüyorum. Daha sonrasında bunu hatırlıyorsunuz. Peki Crysis 2'nin ilk stereoskopik 3D oyunlardan biri olduğunu da hatırlıyorsunuz diye tahmin ediyorum. 3D dünyalar yaratma konusunda teknolojinin sınırlarını sonuna kadar zorluyorduk. Ancak 3D televizyon konsepti birçoğunuzun evinde vardır herhalde, benim de var 2 tane ama Gravity ve Avatar'dan başka bir şey seyrettik mi? Hayır, tamamen boşa harcadığımız bir para vardı orada. Ve sıkıcıydı. Niye sıkıcıydı? Çünkü böyle bir ekranda 3 boyutlu bir deneyim yaşıyoruz. Ama hala odanın içindesiniz. Gençler için işte annesi odaya girdiği zaman bir anda dünyanın dışındasın zaten. Ya da işte eşin çocuğa bak dediği zaman immersive dünyayı, o içine alan şeyi yaşatmak mümkün olmuyordu ve bir gözlük var, rahatsız bir gözlük, at gitsin. Ben normal oynamaya devam edeyim, en azından senaryoyu, kurguyu yaşayayım diyorduk. Peşinden Dinozor Adası'na bir dönüşümüz oldu. Bundan 3 ay önce. Şimdi burada hiç Oculus ya da herhangi bir VR deneyimi olmayan var mı? Hiç ben daha görmedim, dokunmadım, ellemedim. Var. Süper. Peki, bir daha görebilir miyim elleri? Bir daha görebilir miyim elleri? Beyefendi, siz gelebilir misiniz? Evet. Evet, evet. Random seçtim ama hiç alakası yok, tanımıyorum beyefendi. Hiçbir headset'i denemediniz, öyle değil mi? Tamam, buyurun. Dinozor Adası'na dönüş bizim için tahmin ettiğiniz gibi aslında bir yandan da duygusal anlamı olan bir projeydi. CryEngine'i ilk açık dünyada gösterdiğimiz demodan sonra VR dünyasında da hem teknolojinin geldiği son noktayı göstermek için hem de bu headsetle ve bu teknolojiyle neler yapabileceğimizi denemek için hazırladığımız bir demoydu. Başla. Sami daha önceki sunumda işte hareket hastalığından bahsetti ya da daha beynin sınırlarını çözemediğimiz çok fazla engel var önümüzde, bunlardan bahsetti. Bu demo 3,5-4 ay önce San Francisco'da ilk defa halka açık yapılmış bir VR demosuydu. Halka açık yapılmış ne demek? Bu zamana kadar bütün VR demoları kapalı kapılar arkasında yapılıyordu fuarlarda. Oculus standına gittiğiniz zaman kapı duvar ama içeri girip denemeniz gerekiyordu. Ve çok büyük bir ihtimalle de olayı ilk deneyenlerin ciddi bir terleme, kusma, kendini kötü hissetme ve bunun alt tarafından görülmemesi gerekiyordu. Çünkü kestiremiyorduk ne olup ne biteceğini. Her insan için farklı bir deneyim yaşatıyordu. Kimisine hiçbir şey olmuyordu. Bu demo halka açıktı çünkü aslında şu anda bir hareket yok. Deneyimlediği arkadaşın şu anda durduğu yerde CryEngine'le yaratılmış bir evreni, bir dünyayı olduğu yerden seyretmek üzere. Bu demo 40 günde yapıldı. 40 gün içerisinde biraz kısa sesini 40 gün içerisinde hazırlandı. O zaman küçük bir ekiple hazırlandı. Ve şöyle bir soru soruldu. Hani böyle bir teknoloji var, böyle bir imkan var bizim elimizde. Bunu birlikte çalıştırabiliyoruz. Ne yapmamız gerekiyor, ne yapmalıyız? Şu anda belki birçoğunuzun farkında olmadığı, takip etmiyorsanız eğer, Oculus headset'ini bir joystick gibi kullanabiliyoruz bu demoda. Buradaki ilginç olan şey oydu. Şimdi arkadaşın kafasının hareketine göre dinozor tepki veriyor. Daha öncesindeki uçuşan sinekten kaçmasını sağlıyor. Bizim ofiste denediğimiz ne yapabilirdik? Yani bu teknolojiyi bir sonraki aşamaya taşımak için ne katabilirdik? Ve böyle bir demoyu biz açık alanda yaptık. Gelen herkesin izlediği, kapalı kapılar arkasında olmayan bir demoydu. Bitti herhalde. Göstermeye çalıştığımız şey CryEngine'e nasıl etkileyici dünyalar yaratıldı ve bunu VR teknolojisiyle, sanal gerçeklik teknolojisiyle neler düşünüyorsun? Bir paylaş arkadaşım.
Yani ben ömrümde ilk kez bu VR'ı daha işte gerçekçi görüntü olmadan bilgisayarın içinde bu VRML olarak işte üstünde bir dokusu olmayan cisimleri oynatarak gördüm. Yani bu yıllar önce. Ama şimdi bir an başka tarafa bakarken birden olay değişmiş. Yani bir gerçekçiye yaklaşmış bir görünüm almış. Ama çözünürlüğü hala ben zayıf buldum. Yani çözünürlük bunda da zayıftı hala.
Çözünürlük hala zayıftı. Sami nasıl bir gelişim göstereceğini anlattı. Ha? Sami anlattı nasıl bir hızla gelişeceğini. Şu anda Oculus DK2'de bakıyoruz olaya. Bu demo yapıldıktan sonra bir anda ilgili medyadan, özellikle de kullanıcı deneyimlerinden VR üstüne çalıştığımız ve neler yapacağımızla ilgili pozitif şeyler almaya başladık. Bu bizim için aslında bir denemenin sonucunda, evet biz bu yolu takip etmeliyiz, bunun devamını getirmeliyiz sonucunu çıkarttı ve şu an yaklaşık 50 kişilik bir ekip sadece VR üzerine çalışıyor. Geçen ay, yani tam 3 ay sonra, GDC demosundan 3 ay sonra ikinci demoyu hazırladık. Burada da kontrolleri biraz daha üzerinde çalışıp geliştirmeye çalıştık. Demosunu Ozan yapacak çünkü joystick kullanması gerekiyor. İlk deneme için programdan hemen sonra açık olacak zaten. İsteyen bu deneyimi kendisi de burada yaşayabilir. Tamam, hemen başla. Şimdi ilk demoyu 40 gün gibi bir sürede hazırladı ekip. Küçük bir ekipti o zaman. 6-7 kişilik bir ekipti yanlış hatırlamıyorsam. Ne yapabileceğimizi görmekle alakalıydı. Şimdi en büyük avantajımız CryEngine gibi üstün bir teknolojiye sahip olmamız. Ve bu teknolojiyi daha ileriye taşımak için VR'ı nasıl kullanacağımızı düşünmeye başladığımızda en büyük sıkıntılardan bir tanesi controller'lardı. Seni nasıl bu dünyanın içerisinde bir şeyler yapmaya, bir şeyler yapmanı sağlayabilecektik. Burada da farklı olarak denediğimiz şey, ellerin kontrolünü çok basit 2 düğmeye atayıp, aslında baktığın yerde elinle bir şeyler yapabilecek hale getirmekti. Çok mu yakınsın? Ve bunu yaparken, bu basit kontrolleri uygularken de gerçekte asla olamayacağım bir dünyayı deneyimlemeye başlamaktı. Neydi bu dünya? İşte dinozorlar adasına geri dönüş dediğimiz bu yepyeni, bambaşka, ne bir filmde ne bir 3D ekranda yaşayabileceğiniz deneyimi kullanıcıların yaşamasını sağlamaktı. Demo sizler için gün sonuna kadar burada. Eğer hiç denememiş olanlar varsa ya da videosunu seyredip görmek isteyenler varsa mutlaka denesinler. Benim de kendi adıma kıyasladığım bütün demolar arasında gerçeğe en yakın gördüğüm işlerden bir tanesiydi. Bir de dinozorlar bu ara oldukça popüler. Şansımıza diyeyim biraz. Dinozor sevmeyen var mı? Yoktur herhalde. Ve biz bunu kendimize misyon olarak görüyoruz. Gerçekten kullanıcıların hiçbir zaman olamayacağı dünyaları yaratmak ve bundan keyif almasını sağlamak bizim için en önemli tatmin edici unsurlardan bir tanesi. Yukarı kadar ulaştı. Şimdi ilk demodan geliştirmeye devam ettiğimiz bu headset'i aynı zamanda bir joystick input olarak kullanma felsefesi burada da devam ediyor. Baktığımız yerle etkileşime girerek çok basit el kontrolleriyle olması gerekenleri yapabiliyorsunuz. Ha, biz bu işi biliyor muyuz diye bu noktada sorduğunuz zaman hiçbir fikrimiz yok arkadaşlar. Sadece elimizde bir teknoloji var. Kötü çözünürlükte bir ekran var. Ve bununla ne yapabiliriz? Şu anda 50 kişilik bir ekibin kendisine sürekli sorduğu, her gün sorduğu soru bu. Biz bununla ne yapabiliriz? Bu işi nasıl daha ileriye taşıyabiliriz? Ve E3'teki bu gösteriden sonra Crytek'in artık bu işe tamamen girdiğini ve lead etmek istediğini gösterdiler ki biz artık orada bir AAA kalitesinde bir oyun, bir deneyim için çalıştığımızı tüm dünyaya duyurduk. Robinson çok enteresan bir proje, çok sevdiğimiz bir proje, heyecanlandıran bir proje bizi. Umarım kullanıcıları da aynı şekilde heyecanlandırıyordur. Dinozorlarla dolu bir dünya düşünün. Ve VR'da olduğu gibi hayal etmenin sonu yok. Bunun ne olduğunu hatırlayan var mı? He? Bu kaçırdığımız tren. AAA ve mobil oyun geliştirmede binemediğimiz, AAA'de bir 15 sene fark yediğimiz, mobil oyun geliştirmede en az 5 sene fark yediğimiz, faydalanamadığımız bütün o teknolojilerin kaçan treni. VR'da bu tren daha kalkmadı. Bu tren hala istasyonda duruyor. Ve geliştirme yapmak isteyen, dünyayı değiştirmek isteyenler varsa bu odada başlamaları gereken yer burası diye düşünüyoruz. Bunu hatırlıyor musunuz? Bu Motorola'nın ilk telefonu, cep telefonu. Hani kafelerde masaya koyarlardı ya, bir tekst yazmak için 45 dakika uğraşırdın. Bu ne? O çözünürlük iyi değil dediği arkadaşımız. Bu telefon 93'te çıktı ya da 94'te hatırlamıyorum. Bugün geldiği nokta basın üstündeki bilgisayarınızdan daha güçlü bir şeyi cebinizde taşıyorsunuz. Öyle bir işlemci gücüyle bu işi yapıyorsunuz. Yarın bu olur mu? Bunu sorguluyoruz bugün. Yarın o güneş gözlüğünüzü, yanınızda taşıdığınız güneş gözlüğünüzü hem VR hem AR için kullanacak mısınız? Bu sorunun cevabını tüm dünya aynı anda arıyor şu anda. Şu anda burada öğrenci var mı? Süper. Şu anda burada oturan öğrencilerle Stanford Üniversitesi'nde oturan öğrencilerin arasındaki fark çok az. En fazla ürünü daha çabuk ulaştılar belki sizden. Ama artık siz de çok rahat ulaşabiliyorsunuz. DK2 peynir ekmek gibi satılıyor şu anda. Ve DK2 iyi bir teknoloji değil artık. Biraz önce beyefendinin söylediği gibi bunun çözünürlüğü iyi değil dedi ya. Çünkü çok hızlı gelişti. Şu anda Crescent Bay piyasada ama yeterli olmadığı için Crytek'te bile yok doğru düzgün, öyle söyleyeyim. Ama önümüzdeki 3 ay içinde commercial versiyonu piyasaya çıkacak. Ve sadece bir tane değil, birçok firma bu platformları çıkartacak. 10 sene sonra bu teknolojiye ulaşır mıyız? Bu placeholder bir resim. Gerçekten böyle bir şey yok. Belki bundan daha ufak olacak. Neden? Çünkü transistörlerin ufak olmasıyla ilgili kuralları biliyorsunuzdur. O işlemci gücünü çok küçük alana sığdırmak için zaten çalışıyorlar. Bütün işlemci üreticileri olsun, teknoloji üreticileri olsun. Ve çok uzun bir hayal değil, güneş gözlüğünde VR'ı kullanabiliyor olmak. Hop. CryEngine versiyon 3.8.1 şu anda Oculus'la full entegre durumda. CryEngine'in şu andaki Steam'deki subscription model ucuz olan versiyonu kullanmaya başladığınız zaman Oculus üzerinde VR geliştirmelerine anında başlayabiliyorsunuz. Önümüzdeki zamanda diğer tüm headset üreticileri için de bu entegrasyonlar yapılacak. CryEngine'i olabildiğince VR üzerinde çalışmayı düşünen geliştiricilere kullanılabilir hale getirmek istiyoruz. Böyle bir misyonumuz var. Ve Türkiye'de çalışmalar, Türkiye'yi pilot bölge olarak seçtik kendimize. Bütün ön çalışmalarımızı Türkiye'de yapacağız. Ve bunun ilk örneğini de Bahçeşehir Üniversitesi ile birlikte yaptığımız CryEngine Akademi projesiyle başlatıyoruz. CryEngine Akademi projesi uzun soluklu bir proje olacak bizim için. Türkiye'de gördüğümüz şey son 3 yıldır CryEngine'e çalışmak isteyip ya bu çok kompleks, ben bununla yapamıyorum deyip farklı alternatiflere yönelmek, yöneldikleri alternatiflerde de full bir çözüm bulamayıp tekrar daha gelişmiş oyun geliştirme sistemlerine yönelmesi. Ciddi bir vakit kaybı olarak görüyoruz. Ancak VR, Türkiye'de AAA kalitesinde oyun yapan bir stüdyo, CryEngine'de oyun yapan büyük bir stüdyo, iş imkanı vesaire olmadığı için de herkes kendini geliştirdiği alanı buna göre seçiyordu bu zamana kadar. İşte bu noktada VR her şeyin başlangıcı bizim için. Çünkü bu alandaki geliştirme yapan hiçbir geliştirici burada oturan arkadaşlarımızdan, buradaki geliştiricilerden çok daha iyi, çok daha süper, arada inanılmaz fark var. İşte Crysis'i yaptılar, Rise'i yaptılar gibi bir fark yok. Crytek şu anda belki çok commitment bir durumda 50 kişiyle VR üzerine çalışma yapabilir. Ama bildiği sizinkinden çok daha fazla değil. Bütün bu teknolojide neler yapabileceğini sorgulayan insanlar var sadece. Aynısını Türkiye'de de başarabilir miyiz? Evet, başarabiliriz. Burada da bu teknoloji üzerinde neler yapmak gerektiğini sorgulayan gruplar, şirketler oluştuktan sonra biz Crytek olarak hem desteklemek istiyoruz, hem de birlikte bir şeyler yapmak istiyoruz. Dolayısıyla da akademi bunun başlangıcı olan bir proje bizim için. Sunum bu kadar. Güven Hocam belki akademiyle ilgili birkaç kelime bir şey söylemek ister. Teşekkürler dinlediğiniz için.
Serhat teşekkürler. Evet aslında çok güzel bir işbirliğinin başlangıcı. Biz özellikle bu oyun laboratuvarını kurduktan sonra 2012 yılında itibaren birçok komünite etkinliği yaptık ve bu deneyimle birlikte geçtiğimiz yıl bir master programı kurduk. Oyun tasarımı üzerine Game Design Master programı. Adı da Master Bug. Ve tabii ki bu programla birlikte tabii ki bu programın da başlamasıyla birlikte böyle bir yapılanmanın gelmesi de elbette çok doğaldı. Ve bu anlamda aslında çok heyecanlıyız. Yani Serhat'ın dediği gibi, benim en başta dediğim gibi sanal gerçeklik özellikle şu an yakalayabileceğimiz bir teknoloji. İlk etapta ders kapsamında üniversite içinde başlayacak. Ama daha sonra elbette CryEngine Akademi bu pilot çalışma tamamlandıktan sonra daha public, daha halka açılacak bir anlamda. Bununla ilgili bir yandan da CryEngine Akademi'nin de yanı sıra bir yine ortak Crytek'le birlikte bir Virtual Reality Lab kurma projesi de var. Bu lab de ilk etapta pilot çalışmalarını bitirdikten sonra yine halka açılacak. Elbette bir takım proje başvuruları alıp bunları değerlendirip akabinde de buradaki herkesin aslında bir anlamda kullanımına açık olacak. Şu an bunların altyapı çalışmalarını yapıyoruz. Pilot çalışmalarını özellikle güz döneminde yapmak istiyoruz. Bahar döneminde de daha herkes açık olan bir akademi ve bir VR Lab projeleri söz konusu. Şimdi bununla ilgili tabii ki bize ulaşabilirsiniz. Zaten çok ulaşılabilir insanlar olduğumuzu düşünüyorum bir yandan. Şimdi küçük bir kurulum hazırlığı var. Bir sonraki konuşma için isterseniz
I'm lucky to be the creative director for the CryEngine in Frankfurt. We have a whole team there working on all this. But what I thought I would start with is just a sample video showing you the power of CryEngine, and then we're going to get into the whole story. I guess there's no doubt that the CryEngine has the power to power the vision of virtual reality. So that's what we're going to talk about today is virtual reality, the new wave, and how we're going to ride it. You know, when I talk to people like this, I like to say that the future arrives in waves. This is especially true of new technology. You know, new advances arrive like waves coming to a beach, and we're kind of like surfers who are waiting for the next wave to arrive, right? We're looking for the next big swell. So, each wave carries us a little bit further up the beach, and we learn something new. And sometimes there's a new wave, a powerful wave, that if we take the time and are prepared for it, we can ride it into places that we've never seen before. So, take a little liberty here. The analogy of the wave. Is virtual reality the next new wave? Will it revolutionize interactive entertainment? And what can we do in this room here to prepare for it? Because we don't want to miss the train this time. We want to be in that rising curve, the transition from the innovation into the early adopters. You know, a lot of people are betting a lot of big money on it right now and working very hard in the hopes of making the vision become reality. At Crytek, we believe that virtual reality is the future, and we're hard at work, as you've already heard, solving both the technical problems and the artistic challenges. And now, we have an opportunity to work here with your university in Istanbul to help prepare for the next generation. You know, I'd like to share everything that we are working on at the CryEngine team in Frankfurt, but we don't have time to do that today. Just have a short presentation. So I've concatenated it, and it's impossible to cover all of the challenges of virtual reality. There's technical problems, there's storytelling problems, all of that. So I'm just going to touch on a few of them and try to share with you what our hopes and dreams are for where we're going to take virtual reality in the future. And so, like Sammy, I thought I would start with an overview of where virtual reality got its start. We must have done the same sort of research because I found a lot of the same stuff. Hopefully, I have a few other little insights along the way that will augment what he said. Because the origins of VR, you know, there was that first wave in the 90s, and my speaker's getting very loud. Is that better? I want you all to be able to hear me. So there was the original wave in the 90s. We'll give you a little bit of overview of that and talk about what's different about it this time, you know? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about CryEngine and the challenges of VR and what we have learned so far, and there's still a long ways to go. And now the CryEngine Academy and the promise of what it holds for innovation in the future. So let's get into it. The first VR system is the idea of creating an alternate reality that can transport us to strange and exotic worlds. You know, that's not a new idea. That's what video games do. Certainly, a book can take you to another world. And on stage, actors can present us with what appears to be a window into another world, another time. I would even argue that the origin of VR might have been telling stories around the campfire. It's in our genes to want to share stories, and we have always reveled in creating new ways to share a vision of an alternate reality. You know, it wasn't until the end of the 19th century that technology, though, advanced beyond telling stories around the campfire to where it became possible to provide the first mechanically reproduced images and sounds to a viewer and create an illusion of another place. The invention of the motion picture camera and the projector provided audiences with a window into another world. Virtual reality, of course, is more than a movie. It's the idea of fooling our senses into thinking that we are really there. We're actually in the imaginary place, and not just looking through a window or looking at a projection. That is to say, our senses of sight and sound, even touch, can be fooled into thinking that we're really there. Morton Heilig, Arguably the inventor of the first virtual reality system in this sense, at least from the hardware perspective. He invented the Sensorama, which we're seeing here, in 1957, and he refined it for several years. Oh, thank you. And it was pretty impressive for 1960s technology. The game gave the player the experience of riding a motorcycle through the streets of Brooklyn. The player felt the wind on their face, vibration of the motorcycle seat, a 3D view, even the smells of the city. The Sensorama, though, was doomed because the cost of making stereoscopic movies in those days was just prohibitive. He also patented something called the telesphere mask in 1960. This was arguably the first head-mounted display, and it provided a stereoscopic 3D view, wide field of view, vision, and true stereoscopic sound. But Morton kind of was consigned to the dustbin of history. Another early pioneer, we saw in Sammy's presentation as well, was Ivan Sutherland. He was arguably one of the fathers of modern computer graphics, and he, in 1968, created what he called the Sword of Damocles. The Sword of Damocles was one of the first head-mounted displays. It was attached to a computer, and it enabled a wearer to see a virtual world. But the sheer weight of the thing meant that it had to be attached to a suspension device overhead. That's where the name of the Sword of Damocles comes from, because when you use it, you were always worried the dang thing was going to come crashing down on your head. It was actually an augmented reality system. Man, this guy was ahead of his time, because you could see through the display to the world around you. And it was also seen as a prototype of many of the head-mounted displays that are used by the military today. Ivan had lots of big ideas. He talked about this as being a display for virtual worlds, but he knew that it was limited. He imagined something that he called the ultimate display. And I like to bring it up because it shows not only how far ahead of the curve and how far outside the box Ivan Sutherland thought, but also how far we have to go still in virtual reality. And this is a quote from Ivan. He said, "This is pretty cool." He didn't say that, but he said, quote, "The ultimate display, of course, would be a room within which the computer can control the existence of matter. A chair displayed in such a room would be good enough to sit in. Handcuffs displayed in such a room would be confining. And a bullet displayed in such a room would be fatal." Sounds sort of like Tron or the Matrix, right? That's what we aspire to in virtual reality. Maybe not shooting each other in virtual reality. I guess we do that as well. Anyway, in the 80s and 90s, the rise of the personal computers in home gaming and home gaming consoles brought the first boom in virtual reality and the first foray into the commercial realm. Jaron Lanier, an early pioneer. He's actually credited with popularizing the term virtual reality. Lanier and Thomas Zimmerman left Atari in 1985 and founded VPL Research. And that's the first company to ever sell VR goggles and input gloves. The future looked really bright in those days. The virtual reality group was another pioneer. We saw the VR arcade gaming system that they built in the 90s. They had stand-up, sit-down devices. They both used headsets, built-in screens. They put the gamers right in the middle of the action. These pods were amazing to look at. They were physically impressive, but they cost tens of thousands of dollars. And in spite of their popularity, it was unsustainable and it didn't branch into the consumer realm. And of course, we've heard all about the Virtual Boy. Boy, that does make you sick when you look through that thing. It wasn't really true 3D. They used simple parallax. They would offset pixels from, depending upon the depth in the scene. But it used a monochromatic red display, didn't have any head tracking, it was expensive, low resolution, and laggy. It was a flop. Apple wasn't the first one with the iProducts. Virtual I.O. put together a headset capable of stereoscopic 3D with color and head tracking. And it was a price tag of less than $1,000, so why didn't it work? It was just too expensive, and we couldn't get it to the price point and the fidelity that consumers wanted. But although the technology was expensive and not very compelling, not ready for the mass market, military was a different story. The cost was less of a barrier, and if the technology proved to be valuable, and it did, then they would proceed with it. It proved to be very valuable for training, battlefield simulation, flight simulation. The goal here was not entertainment, it was accuracy and reliability, and providing a tactical advantage by training our soldiers in a safe environment. Even with Oculus and Sony and all the guys that are working today, we still don't know what the militaries of the world have in their classified armories. But a quick search of public systems shows that there's been a lot of activity between the 90s and today. And is often the case with military technology, this HMD technology has gradually made its way into the public sector. But the military gear is still very expensive and complex. Meanwhile, in spite of the lack of consumer devices and VR systems, public interest in the ideas of virtual reality have remained high throughout this entire period, all the way into the present day. In fact, if we look at the movies with VR themes, starting with the movie Tron, which I actually worked on, as a matter of fact, and then continuing through Lawnmower Man, Virtuosity, Johnny Mnemonic, Strange Days, The Matrix, even Star Trek had a holodeck. And more recently, we've seen movies like Ender's Game, very high-end Hollywood productions with a VR theme. In fact, if you go to the IMDb database, you'll find on the IMDb website, you'll find that there are over 46 popular movies, defined popular by over 3,000 votes on the site that have virtual reality themes. So it's clear that everybody wants virtual reality. In spite of this tremendous public interest, until recently though, VR development was out of the reach of consumer applications. And the short answer to what has changed, of course, is mobile devices. The evolution of the smartphone with its compact, high pixel density, full color display has finally given us the fidelity required for a head-mounted display. Now, we're arguing right now, I think we were looking at a DK2 here. Crescent Bay is the next one up from that, and it just barely crosses the threshold where you don't notice that you're looking at the screen anymore. When the pixels disappear, that's when presence will really happen. They're coming, and I predict that it's going to be 4K per eye, to where it's what you need to be able to convince someone completely. But we have to start somewhere. To make it work has required a tremendous amount of development, even starting with the kickstart of mobile technology. The technical challenges of persistence, latency, resolution, and a lot of other perceptual challenges that we'll get into here in a minute could be the subject of multiple talks, and I don't have time today, but I'll leave it at that. One big development I will mention, of course, though, is motion tracking. Mobile phones have accelerometers, GPS systems to allow you to locate where your phone is and also what direction you're facing, but they have nowhere near the resolution that you need. Early VR systems used mechanical and magnetic trackers to locate the headset, but today we have units with high-resolution LED optical tracking based on motion capture technology invented for films, and it's fast and accurate, and it works pretty well. So, is this mobile tech the big swell we've been waiting for? Palmer Luckey saw it coming. We all know how he turned his fascination, his hobby, in VR systems into a fledgling company and pointed the way to a whole new wave of VR systems based on mobile technology. What's going to be interesting is when we see actual display devices that target a more mature VR industry. That's when we're going to see devices designed for virtual reality rather than ones that have been retrofitted. But nevertheless, Oculus Rift caught the attention of a media giant and started this whole new wave of VR that we're riding today. Palmer Luckey and Oculus Rift have become catalysts for an incredible tsunami, if you will, of development in VR, and it feels like a whole new world. The performance barriers are falling, and we're seeing progress day to day. And what's emerging now is a whole new ecosystem, different players ranging from the low end to the high end. Where should we place ourselves, and what are the things that we should keep in mind? Because neither Oculus, nor Sony, nor Microsoft, nor any other company, for that matter, can do it all by themselves. This slide from A&D, one of our partners, sums it up pretty well, because you need a really powerful computer with a fast GPU, you need a good VR headset, you need good audio, and you need peripheral devices to connect you to the virtual experience. And running on that system, there has to be a powerful graphics engine. You can see where this is going. That ties it all together. One capable of rendering extremely realistic worlds at high frame rates, with low latency, and a framework that supports creative experiences and storytelling. That's where Crytek and CryEngine comes in. We have actually already a team of 50 people in Frankfurt, production people, working and developing and dedicated to VR technology development. And this is in addition to my team, the CryEngine team, which is building the framework for all of it to work together. And this is still growing. Our goal is to provide the tools to enable users to create the most compelling VR experiences on the planet. And it's no surprise that Crytek is on the leading edge here. You know, the CryEngine is arguably one of the most advanced 3D engines on the planet. We've got physically based shading, we've got an advanced particle system, AI, physics, character animation, AI scripting, and more. And at Crytek, we're using CryEngine to solve the technical problems of VR, and at the same time that we use it for our own productions. What we're trying to do is take what we have learned and are continuing to learn and put it into our own commercial projects while packing it into CryEngine to share with our developers. It's worth just a moment to bullet point the technical challenges. I'm not going to go into the detail here, but the reason CryEngine is so good at it is because we have a history of doing high frame rate, 60 frame per second, first person point of view games with highly detailed, lush, believable worlds. And we can maintain a solid, stable frame rate because that's what makes you feel like you're really there. The moment there's a hitch, especially when the screen is right in front of your eyes, if there's a little bit of a stutter, it breaks the sense of reality. And back to the idea of resolution, 1920 by 1080 seems to be the bare minimum. But we're running Rise at 4K now on powerful machines, and we're integrating liquid VR support right now, which is going to allow us to prototype on multi-GPU computers so we can see what it should look like, design the stories to work in that mode, and of course, 2 years from now, that power will be available on mobile devices. So, we also benefit from the presence that we can generate just from creating a world that looks real. And of course, stereo rendering. There's lots of tricks you can play in stereoscopic rendering to cheat, to make it look like it's 3D. But in virtual reality, any little sprite-based or flat offset thing that you do is instantly visible. You need to use true stereoscopic dual camera rendering. So when you think about it, to do VR, you need to have 2K resolution per eye, 90 frames per second, stereoscopic rendering. This takes a powerful engine. Another thing that we're doing with CryEngine in this giant ecosystem is we're trying to make CryEngine hardware and software and system, for that matter, agnostic. This is kind of a natural extension for us because in games we have to support consoles, PCs, a variety of different platforms. So we believe that if we continue this multi-platform support in CryEngine, that we'll be able to allow developers to work on whatever platform they think is appropriate. Over the coming months, we're going to be rolling out a series of releases of the engine, that are going to support a wide range of devices. Currently, we have support for Oculus Rift, Morpheus. We're experimenting with the HTC Vive, and probably with OS VR, we'll be able to provide sort of entry-level support for any device. And we're going to look to our developers to pick the most important ones and actually do some of the development work for us. So once you get the technology part, the actual rendering rate, the latency, the fact that you can put the headset on and feel like you're there, when you have that covered, what's next? What constitutes a really good VR experience? Well, there's that sense of presence, convincing you that the rich environment that you've got is really there. Interactivity is where we're working right now, because even before you come to the problems of telling a story, you need to interact with the world, feel like you can reach into it and touch it. So that brings us to the input devices, the Half Moon and the HTC's controllers, because what you saw today, well, I'll get into that in a minute. The early tests, we use just a standard controller, and that's a good way to go, but it doesn't feel intuitive. It's amazing when you put your hand out in front of your face with the goggles on and you can see your hand. Even if it's a low resolution image of a hand, it suddenly closes the loop, and we think that's really going to be important. And how you move through the world. People doing early experiments with first-person shooter type games just ported into VR immediately make everyone sick, and that's because the way you move in virtual reality is going to be different, and we don't know all the answers to those questions yet. So, summarizing though, the power of CryEngine, we're, as an industry and at the CryEngine team, we're working out the remaining technical problems. We can create and sustain the basic sense of presence without making people sick, and with DCC tools and software like CryEngine, we can create sufficiently realistic worlds that people are really going to believe it. And now we come to the even bigger challenge, and when it gets really interesting. And that is not just creating a photorealistic world, but interacting with it, having an experience and telling a story. Providing people with an opportunity to explore and create their own stories. Because, you know, virtual reality is a brand new medium, and the vocabulary of this new medium is only just now beginning to emerge. How do we present choices to the users? How do we guide our viewers so that they feel empowered? How do I remember to press the button so that you guys know what I'm talking about? And how do we do this without making people frustrated? Well, at this point, I think it would be kind of interesting to step back for a minute and draw a comparison between virtual reality, the evolution of virtual reality, and the invention of movies. It's an obvious parallel, but it's interesting because in movies, we've come a long ways. You know, from the early days of Muybridge, one of the first guys to realize that you could break motion down into a series of images. And if you played them back quickly, your brain synthesizes motion out of a series of stills. At the time, that was revolutionary. The idea that still images could contain motion. You know, the first picture of a train coming into a station at 15 frames per second. The people got scared in the theater because they thought it was so realistic. We've come a long ways. And, you know, today, well, in the 30s that we invented color, 35mm film was finally standardized, the color gamut, all of those things. And today, we have cameras like the Red, which can shoot 60 frames per second at over 4K, and we take that for granted. The same sort of thing is happening in VR. I mean, movies were invented in the 1890s, right? The ability to project moving pictures was revolutionary, but it took early filmmakers a long time. They didn't know what to do with that technology. It actually took them 10 years before they realized that they could cut from one point of view to another, because that didn't seem natural. In the real world, you don't just cut from one place where your head can't jump instantaneously. And it took years for the language of cinema to develop. You know, the establishing shot, the cross dissolve, the cut. And we take all these things for granted today. And we're at a similar point today in the evolution of virtual reality. The hardware works, we can make the pictures, resolution is improving. How do you direct the attention of your viewer? How do you draw them into the story? What kinds of transitions can we use that people will accept? I think that there are going to be ones that we haven't thought of yet. It's going to really be fun to see how that plays out. How do we present choices to our viewers and allow them to react and interact with our virtual worlds? This is analogous of stagecraft to cinema. We need a similar vocabulary, and we're not even sure yet what the limits are going to be. So this brings us to Crytek. You've already seen the Dino demo, the Dinosaur Island demo 1, so I'm not going to show the video, but I did want to talk a little bit about it because this was our VR tech demo where we actually figured out how VR was going to work and started initial explorations into the space of VR. As you see, it runs on a DK2. It looks even better on a Crescent Bay. It requires a pretty powerful GPU, but we're porting it onto the Morpheus now, and we think that that level of fidelity is sustainable on what's going to be the base level VR machine. So here's a little background about the demo. We chose dinosaurs, well, because dinosaurs, right? And also as a nod to the Exile, and we couldn't have picked a better theme. I didn't expect Jurassic Park to be as popular as it was. I mean, dinosaurs come back around every so often, but we timed it just perfectly. So this initial project the goal was to investigate the language of the core experience, and we thought it was important to eliminate all of the distractions. There were some early input devices we could have used, but we decided to, in this demo, not have any hand motion at all, and we explored what you could do just by looking at things. So we're going to just talk about a little bit of the design that went behind it, because this is where we start getting into creating experiences in VR. Just like in a standard 3D video game using CryEngine, we start by prototyping the level as a white box. So here we experiment with the layout of the terrain, placement of objects. The viewer finds himself sitting in this nest with eggs all around. And at this point, we experimented with the field of view, the scale, interactivity, and we used the Oculus without any consideration for materials or lighting. We also set up the initial choreography. The next step, the designers work on the interactions between the various characters. Interestingly enough, it was at this point that the first cinematic tuning and exaggeration happened. Because we found out that if we built everything just like it was in the real world, for example, the scale of the trees was correct for the size of the T-Rex, the trees felt too big and made the T-Rex feel like it was small. So we made the trees the proper scale relative to T-Rex and adjusted things until it looked right. So it's not exactly accurate. You know, final lighting is also important too, as is feedback. You can see the power of physically based shading in the CryEngine when you look at these two frames. The way the mama steps into the sunlight just before she roars her challenge grabs the viewer's attention, and when she steps up to fill our field of view at the mouth of the cave, it's pretty impressive. And while it would be possible to create stylized or cartoony virtual reality games, I think there's going to be a market for that. I think at this point, the power of CryEngine's ability to create photorealistic worlds is going to pay off, because at this stage, we want everything that you see to be consistent with feeling like you are there. Because anything that doesn't match what your senses are expecting in the real world breaks the illusion. Or even worse, it makes you sick. And this is Crytek's specialty. Not making you sick, but I mean making highly realistic worlds that you believe are real, with complex terrain, natural lighting, atmospheric effects, and so on. So, we also made some interesting discoveries about VR scene setup at this stage. The initial setup and the scale of the player in the world is critical in virtual reality in some ways that we did not expect. For example, the fundamental way that you do stereoscopic 3D, you tune that by setting what's called the interocular separation. That's the distance between your eyes. We initially tried to keep the scale of everything in the world consistent. The average distance between human eyes is about 60 millimeters, and the scale of the objects in the world you'd think would be consistent with that. That's because if you increase the interocular separation, you find that the world starts looking smaller, like miniatures on a tabletop. This effect has been pretty well explored and documented in making of stereoscopic movies and games, but in VR it's more complicated. Because in our case, for example, we wanted to give you the impression that everything around you is big, right? So you're a little egg sitting there in this nest. So it's important to maintain that sense of scale. So we made the interocular distance smaller, put the head down low amongst the eggs close to the ground, and we discovered that that didn't work because it felt like your head was too close to the ground at that point. You wanted to feel like you were standing up, but if you felt like your head was here next to the ground, then you felt something didn't feel right. So then we raised the offset up and left the interocular separation the same, and then it felt like your head was floating. And then we found that the amount of movement that you could put into your head had to match the scale and distance between your eyes. And it should have been easy, but it's not in virtual reality. But we eventually arrived at a scaling coefficient that we were able to apply uniformly to all of those things, and that worked pretty well. And that's part of our setup system now. So we also discovered that we could use the head tracker as input to the hands of researchers, students, innovators, and professional game developers. And an important part of that is going to be the CryEngine Academy. As Serhat described, the Academy will offer training in virtual reality development with direct access to the tool of the CryEngine and everything that we've learned so far. Along the way, students are going to have an opportunity to see firsthand the methods that we've worked out, ones that are being used by professional developers on our team, and they'll also be able to extend this on their own projects. We believe that virtual reality is going to be one of the driving forces in interactive entertainment for the next 10, maybe 20 years. Students who attend the CryEngine Academy are going to be well prepared to ride the wave of VR into the future. And this time, we can be ahead of the curve, we can catch the wave early and be there first. We're eager to share with students what we have learned about VR, but we're even more excited to see where you guys are going to take this technology. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Frank. That was an excellent presentation. It's really great to see what Crytek are doing, pioneering the way into virtual reality.
It seems like we're on the same channel,
Well,
doesn't
we are, a little bit. I'm going to open up the floor to questions now. I think this is a good opportunity for us to quiz Frank on the work he's doing at Crytek and with Dinosaur Island, back to Dinosaur Island. So any questions, raise the hand and we'll pass the microphone around. Oh, I can't see. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Cem and I'm the manager of Game Bootcamp Istanbul.
Awesome.
I want to ask how the startups will survive with developing virtual reality games, because virtual reality is open for development, maybe 2 years, 3 years for now to develop. So what do you think that how will Crytek help startups to develop virtual reality games?
Well, obviously the first step is getting the support in the engine for the devices, like we've started with our latest release, and that's available on Steam, so you won't have, at a very low cost, you'll have access to all of these virtual reality tools and you'll be able to experiment with them. We have an indie program. Since I've arrived at CryEngine, we're actually improving our documentation so that it's going to be a lot easier to learn how all of this works. And we have a new community manager, so we hope to foster a sense of community so that people who are working on problems will have access to knowledge of the community. That's one of the things that Unity does so well. CryEngine, there's no doubt it's a powerful engine, shouldn't be talking about our competition, but the thing we want to do is make it easy for people to work together to solve the problems. So, and of course, something like the CryEngine Academy is going to allow beginners to have a straightforward curriculum that leads them step by step through the process. The thing is, it's not completely known what that process is going to be yet, so I don't know if that answers your question, but I would like to talk to you more about how we're going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Dr. Rosalim. I've been working for the European Union, particularly for the gaming regulators. So I was wondering if you have particular plans to penetrate other market segments beyond the entertainment sector. And secondly, are you also planning to have some compatibility and integration beyond Crytek? I mean, in terms of other competitors in the market that you mentioned, will your devices and software be possible to use with other systems there? Thank you.
Sure, those are both good questions. In terms of other markets, yes, we're focusing primarily right now on the game segment, but we have projects underway in other markets for, like Sammy showed, there's a lot of possibilities. We have some special tool sets for addressing the film market, and we have compatibility with architectural data formats. We're looking for partners to work with us on some of these other areas. And in terms of making it compatible, of course we want people to use CryEngine as the framework, the foundation, but everything we do, we're trying to do in a way that's compatible with industry standards, OSVR being an example, the Alembic file support being another example, support for a bunch of different device types. And by doing that, it won't be completely simple, but it should be straightforward. If you make an experience, you want to run it on a different device configuration, it should be straightforward, and we want to make that as easy as possible. But we're doing it step by step. Like we have the Oculus SDK in there now, moving on to Morpheus, and one by one. If we look for, or if developers who are licensees have a specific project, then we will work with them directly and probably move their particular configuration to the head of the queue.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Jonas, and I got introduced to VR by Jaron Lanier when I was...
You did?
Yes.
You actually met her?
No, not really. I mean, I was against, he was making campaigns against Facebook and Google.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I got interested in. And there is this quote from Archimedes which says that if you put me anywhere in the universe, I can move the earth. And that is interesting coming from like those times when we didn't have technology. So this got me interested, and the fact that the universe is made up of consciousness and we cannot experience it entirely. So we need to experience it using our consciousness. And this means that we can only experience it by perceiving. So the universe becomes sort of a perception. My question is, for you, how do you make sure that the computers don't overpower the consciousness and a sort of singularity? The second question is it possible for us to integrate VR with neuroscience? For example, use auto-suggestion to the subconscious mind to make it possible for the user to actually be in a sort of a trance, we could say, where they are able to work with the environment. Or something like vertigo. with the balance of ear, using the ear to make sure that the balance is okay.
Those are deep questions. The nature of consciousness, but that's really interesting. How do we make the experience, the VR experience that we're building the technology for? How do we keep it from dominating or controlling our consciousness? That might be a component of what you're talking about. I don't know. I think it's the same thing in any medium. It's the responsibility of the creators to present their material in a way that the people have choices still. It's going to be so much more compelling in VR that it's going to be easy to manipulate people. I think that's part of your point. So I don't know what we're going to be able to do about that. Little kids, who subject to VR, they're going to grow up with this stuff, and I'm not sure where we're going to take that. I do know that the social aspect of VR, which we haven't seen yet really coming, is going to be strong. There's going to be hopefully people helping each other and experiencing virtual worlds together. One of the most powerful demos we saw at E3 was Oculus showing off their controllers. The Half Moon, is that right?
Half Moon is the unofficial.
Yeah, the Half Moon controllers. And in the demo, there was someone else there with you. They were in the other room, but they had the same device, and they could pick something up and hand it to you, and you could see the potential for working together on solving problems. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's an interesting.
Definitely, ethics is something that the BBC are actually looking into, the ethical implications of virtual reality, and it's definitely, because it's such a new technology, there's a lot of questions that need to be drilled down and answered in regards to how we're going to apply it and what are the boundaries and limitations of it from many different sides.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the ratings for VR games are going to be a whole new domain.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Frank.
Sure.
It's a little bit of a kind of $1 million question, which is, where do you see the sticking point or the potential in making VR, make that transition to actually being a consumer product? Because there are people sitting on the fence and they're saying, VR is going to be a fad, it's going to kind of come into 2016 and not really become a needed consumer product, something you're going to see in the house. So do you see that it's going to be like the killer app that's going to make that? Is it going to be the hardware technology is going to get to a certain point? What do you feel we need to see for VR to transition into that must-have piece of technology?
Boy, that's a tough question too. The way you made the graph that showed the whole spectrum of fidelity versus quality implies that the low fidelity experiences are going to be the ones that are available first, and that'll play upon people's expectations of it being the best, so we run the risk of disappointing them. So having one killer app, I'm hoping that there's going to be enough variety, and to put it crassly, there's been enough money put into this that we're going to have an opportunity to solve the problems before people just throw their hands up and abandon it. But I do think that that storytelling, that's what I keep coming back to. It sounds silly, but having an experience that grabs people emotionally, that takes them somewhere that they feel involved in. So if it was one killer app, it would be a game where you feel like it's like a movie, but you're part of it, and it takes you to another world, and it's so immersive that you remember it as if you were really there. That's the difference between reading a book, usually, or looking at a movie, is you don't, actually neurologically, you don't set the memory in your brain the same way. And it's going to be interesting to do some research on what effect virtual reality has on the cognitive abilities of people's brains.
So in a way you're saying it's like a new narrative vehicle. You have film, you have video games, books, and in a way VR could potentially be a brand new way of storytelling.
I think that's true, but again, back to your spectrum, there's going to be a variety of variations from movie-like linear 360 all the way to fully immersive, and there are going to be sweet spots in there that we have to look for. What are people looking for? What kind of experiences? But that's exactly where I think it's going to happen.
Nice. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, we have a few. We'll probably have time for 2 or 3, and then we're going to have to move on to the next presentation.
Hello. I just like to join my friend over here. He just touched a very important point. And I remember a sci-fi story named Foundation, where there are 2 sets of technological civilization and civilization based basically on telepathy or other forces that people are able to use. I think the developments over here are very new and on a very basic stage. And to my mind, I like to see you people making, perhaps you are doing that, getting in touch with the neurological science and plus the science about the eye. And what's more, there is one other similar technology or non-technological aspect of human function is the out-of-body experience that can be truly applied in this sort of developments, in the sense that you can just, in an interactive way, you can dominate the whole story or develop it within yourself instead of the presentation done to you through the game industry or anything else. I think once that stage is able to overcome, perhaps the interactive development and personal perception of the whole environment will be much more different and much more entertaining to my mind. And that's what I like to be to see to be developed in that sort of areas that this particular technology are being developed.
That's really cool. Some very good points you made there. I think Foundation, that was by Isaac Asimov, right?
Yes.
Part of the Foundation trilogy. One of my favorite stories, and the mule was able to
Yes.
manipulate people's brains. It's a really good point. We were talking a little bit about the input devices. We're building sort of this stage upon which to do things. Input devices, it's kind of a primitive way of describing it, but it should include biofeedback devices, things that can monitor your brain. Actually, I'm a little worried by the immersion that we get from virtual reality. We don't really know exactly what it's doing to our brains. It might be good things, it'd be good to know, so the researchers should do that. But to your last point, I think you're absolutely right. The idea of a linearly presented story, people are still always going to want that. I go to the movies, I want to sit back, eat my popcorn, and have the story told to me. Virtual reality should also be able to do that, so you really feel like you're there, but it's still a linear story. On the other end of the spectrum, you should have a world creation kit where you can go in and invent your own reality, make up your own story, and that's where you have the potential of the Minecraft of virtual reality.
And it comes back to the point of presence as well.
Yeah.
Presence you can't get in a game, you can't get in a movie, but you can get very well feeling that you're actually there in the VR experience, which you're all trying now when we start the demos. You actually feel presence, and that's something that's unique to this technology.
Are there any works being done on that?
The neurological side?
Yes.
I think there is. I have not personally looked into it yet, but I think I
There
should.
are people looking at the therapy base. So how do you deal with phobias, anxiety, depression? How do you deal with alcoholism? We're exploring how you can tackle this within virtual reality, which is, again, it's tapping into a subconscious state, which is a dialogue that we're not going to start today, but I can definitely email you some very interesting articles that are looking at that. So we're going to have one more question, and then Frank will be here afterwards for us to continue talking to him.
Hello. As a fellow fan, I want to ask, is it possible to see past
Crytek productions in a virtual world, like Crisis and Rise. In the future, you will talk about we have one shot to make a big quality production. Can it be Crisis 4 or remake all productions?
Well, I can't say specifically what we're doing, but I can tell you that we've thought about that, and that actually the fact that the assets for creating Rise and creating Rise and Crisis are 3D and first person, they are almost ideally suited for possible conversion. But it's a lot more complicated than it sounds to do that. You can't just plop, a virtual camera into a Rise level, because first person has lots of shortcuts that are taken with the perspectives and the, parts of the body that you can't see, and back to that interocular separation, all of that. It's possible, and we're definitely looking. I think that would be really cool to have a VR Crisis.
Brilliant. Well, I want to say thank you again, Frank. If we could join our hands together and say thank you, Frank, one more time. Frank will be with us today. We're going to be doing some demos a little bit later, but I'm going to introduce our final presentation today. I'm very excited to invite Reddy to the stage. He's going to be talking a little bit more about how to make impactful VR experiences for your audiences.
I'm going to present you the kind of virtual reality and the impact on audiences. My name is Reddy, and I'm also the co-founder of CodeModon. Maybe some of you have heard about CodeModon. For those that didn't hear about CodeModon, I'll just give a short introduction on what we do and who we are. We develop games for brands, different from games that you have been using until now. We produce short games, short interactions. When people just meet the brand, different from the controllers that you have been using until today, we are trying to be focused on controlling the game with your body movements, and also producing some custom controllers based on different sensors. And by producing these kind of environments, we are thinking to be a good lead on making an immersive environment for the games that we produce. Okay, I will not touch too much the technical part and also the historical part of the overview, because I'm sure that today you heard many things about the historical part. This is only a short introduction of how media and how interaction come to people. So I will just switch up to the VR environments. I'm not just taking too much of the history in the first picture here. VR was something that everybody knew before, And right now, it's kind of commercial, that's why we're able to get it, and because of the lower prices, everybody is now able to get it. I'm just focused on the fourth and fifth pictures, because those two are two of our products that we launched this year. We have been working for virtual reality in the last 2 years, and right now we have also ongoing developments for new products. And as you can see in the demo in the left part of the room. So, experiencing is believing, that's our motto that we think for the virtual reality. As we are now using virtual reality for gaming and digital advertising, as mentioned before, we should say that virtual reality can be used also for medical therapies and also for professional simulation in order to learn. So today I'm going to be focused on gaming and digital advertising, and what should we do to make people feel it real, to make people enjoy, also enjoy speed, enjoy fear, enjoy many different parts of the games that we have been experiencing until now. Firstly, I'm going to show you one of our videos that is also one of the demos that you can experience today in the demo room. This is a game. I think no audio is coming here. Can you please check? So we wanted people to get afraid, but in the same time enjoy that, because we are trying to make experiences that normal people cannot do in their normal life. In this demo, you have to pass through 2 high buildings. This is, of course, something that you will not do in your normal life, because nobody is so afraid to pass through 2 apartments. That's why we modeled an environment where you are part of a movie, and your character is running through a window here. He's running because some bad people are trying to chase him. So what we do is make somebody watch the movie, and in a while you are part of the movie. So now you are acting. As I mentioned before, we use movement sensor and body tracking sensors in order to make virtual reality much more immersive and much more believable. Here, every body movement that you make in your normal life is going to be translated inside a virtual character, and that virtual character will be able to move in that virtual world. So, because also of the stereoscopic view, you are now able to feel the height. So you see here trying to just catch those people that are trying to walk. normally what you have to do is just make about 4 or 5 steps like this, but nobody's able to do that. But we come here to another topic, which is trying to lie to our brain, make somebody believe that he's somewhere else, although it's in the real world. After the success of the first product, we made the Action Star product as a storytelling experience. So this was our first version called Vertigo. The other one is called Parachute, and we will be coming with 2 other versions, I think in 2 or 3 months. So today you can experience the Vertigo in the room and also the Parachute version. Speaking about the advertising point of view, we developed this game for a brand, and we make the brand story inside the game. So when people play this game, they are able to recognize the brand, have fun, and at the end of the day, make it possible for the brand to make the advertisement while they are making people having fun. So this is the key part. Okay, between all this bunch of classes that I think you already know for today, we are focused on the OpenSwift VK2 because we see it as the best VR glass on the market that makes us possible to develop really fast and really make robust applications. And also, regarding the quality and the resolution of the view, although maybe it's not enough for us right now, it is the best in the market. Just for the resolution, we've got a better here, Samsung Gear VR, but because it's a mobile system, it's not possible for us to create very big worlds, very high performance worlds. So right now we're just trying to stick on the OpenSwift VK2. And also we are waiting for the consumer version, which we hope it's going to be delivered in the first or second month of 2016. So we were speaking about virtual reality, but virtual reality becomes real when you mix it with the real reality. So it's not enough just to produce some visual content and put it on the glasses, because people will not be able to believe that environment. You need to sophisticate this case and try to use different hardware, try to use audio systems in order to make the guy which is playing the games believe that he's really in that other world. So we are not just focused on 100% virtual reality. We are trying to mix it up and produce a mixed reality where you, for example, are not using a simple controller, you are using a machine simulator, and that machine simulator is really modeled in that world that make it possible to feel the physics and at the same time play a game which is in a world not real. Before showing you the Action Star Parachute video, I was going to be focused on what we thought for the launch would be the best in order to make people believe that they are in that world. So we could have made a parachute game, a real parachute simulation game, get the joystick and play. But we thought that's going to be much more believable for the people in order for the game to be much more enjoyable. You see here the product, which is a real parachute holders. And in the bottom here, we've got some jumping sensors. I'm not going to the technical part of this overview. And in the third part here, we've got the screen, which attracts people to watch this game. So the parachute controller is a real physical-based controller. When you pull the left part of it, you're going to fly to the left. When you pull the right part of it, you're going to fly to the right. Is there anybody here who just flew in parachute? Okay. And not too much excitement. When you pull both of these strings here, you're going to float directly towards your destination, and you're going to just fly much more faster than you would normally fly. This is the real parachute control. And this jump recognizer here makes the difference in the game and feels that person who is playing, feels what he's doing. Is he jumping? Is he staying steady? So combining these controllers with a real game will make that guy which is playing just feel that he's really just flying the parachute. So in order to make the explanation much more clear, I'm gonna just play the video. Here we've got the controller which we modeled here. There are two strings, which of course we need to help the person hold the string because he cannot see the strings. Again, as it is a storytelling of the Action Star product, we've got you watching a movie and you are now able to be part of a rescue mission for somebody which is stuck in an island and you have to save them. So you are teleported from the movie inside a real plane which is flying really high. So right here, the game says you that you need to jump, and really people jump. Try to jump, and in the same time, they got thrown in over the air. Now it's the best part where you just can control your parachute using the real strings. As you see inside the game, from the advertisement point of view, you see many logos and images which can be modified according to the brand. Let's walk through. Actually, for the game, it's enough just to make a little step towards the jump. The people are just got inside the game, so they do not just make a little step toward, they really jump. So they feel that fright, they feel that they are inside the game, so they just do not make a step, they really throw themselves to the game. And also there's a surprise, if you just are not able to land on the island, there's going to be a shark coming to you inside the ocean and just going to just get near to you. The photographs you see here are another thing that we offer. It's the social media integration. So everybody wants himself to get pictured or get caught on a video from his friend and after that watch it. But we do this for you. So what you see here is something we catch and publish in the social media environment. What do really people love about VR and VR? Up to now, we've been playing normal games with mouse controllers, keyboard controllers, and we have been stuck in a 2D screen. But for VR, different things start to be possible. So, if you just play a basic shooter game that you have been playing nowadays, in the VR, it's something different. But if you really fly, if you really jump, if you really, for example, are in a place that you enjoy fear, enjoy speed, this is going to be something different beside the games that you've been playing until now. Because for VR, it's not important just to create a game. It's very important to create an ambience where people can feel that virtual world. So they need to experience another reality. So we need to make people believe that they are in that virtual world right now. And also, we try to make in our games things that people normally do not do in their normal lives. Things that people maybe wish to do, but they cannot do. So for example, maybe you really can fly a parachute, but I think that not everybody is able to go to rescue somebody using a parachute. So this is the different part of that. What problems do we face? Maybe these problems have been also mentioned today, but I'm just going to make a short introduction. Also problems that we have been seeing in people. We are trying to make our experiences really short because, for example, if you pass more than 10 minutes using a VR controller or a VR game, you're going to really feel this kind of nausea and headache because the balance that people normally have in their brain and their ear, it's not going to be too much simulated inside the game. So you are in the virtual world moving, but really you are not moving. That's what causes all these problems. And one of the other problems that we see is the pain because having a small screen for a long period of time before your eyes, it's going to be really tiring. From the projects I show you that you can also see today, we got some captures in order to see the people's reaction because I said I'm going to be focused about the way that people get introduced to the VR. So in this video you can see really that guy playing in the parachute, and in the right place you can see the real-time controllers that are moving inside the game. So you see that when that guy presses the left part, also in the game, it's the left part which is pressed. And we always try to minimize the latency for every control because in virtual reality, if latency is too high, it will never make you believe that you are in that virtual world. Here is also another sample, and this is the example where the shark comes through the screen. Here, the person is really got the emotion of the shark. This is what we call enjoying fear. So we make people get afraid, but at the same time they enjoy it because everybody knows that they are in the virtual world. This is about the vertical example. So mainly everybody can walk 2 meters. Maybe if you close your eyes, you're going to walk okay. But when you see this screen, your brain gets stuck. And you are not able to recognize, am I in this world or in another world? You can understand all this scenario when you really try the game, because as much as I try to explain, you maybe are not able to get the idea of this hate here. So this guy, before playing, said that I'm going to play normally. After he just put the glasses, he said that no, it's not for me. Okay. Except the controllers that we already produce for our games, with our custom controllers, we really need, as mentioned also today, we really need controllers that make us free movements inside the game. Right now we use movement controllers for all the body, but we need exact controllers that are going to move our virtual hands inside the game exactly where we want. So we are just expecting the Oculus Touch. This is the project name that Oculus is going to launch in the first quarter of 2016, and also with the new headset, which is going to be the headset for the consumer version 1. We hope to get these controllers and make also our games much more enjoyable and much more real. Right now, for the resolution, we've got the Samsung Gear VR, which offers a 2K resolution, but for both eyes. So 2K resolution is divided to the left and the right side, which is not really enough in order to make us believe that scene is real. Also, from the user point of view, I'm showing some of the other controllers that are being developed, because many of these controllers are not yet for the consumer product. These controllers will be always something that is a utility for the virtual world. The first and the second one, this is virtual exponent, this is the Wizdish. These controllers make you walk inside the virtual world. So what we need, for example, in our demo, you just walk 2 meters, but maybe you want to run. Maybe you want to run inside an apartment, but we cannot offer you a very huge amount of place. So these controllers here make your shoes slip over that disc, and when your shoes slip over that disc, you are going to be able to recognize those motions inside the game and really walk inside this game. From the users that tested these kind of controllers, we got the reviews that for now these are too tiring. So when you are trying to walk there and you walk for 10 or 15 minutes, your legs get too tired. So it is still yet in development. Here we've got a controller which is vibration. And for example, in a shooting game, if you get shot, you're gonna hear a vibration, maybe near your heart, maybe near your shoulder. So this controller here makes you feel the vibrations of the game. Here we've got another prototype, which is not yet a consumer product, and this is called Control VR. Here are the hands and the part of the body. When you move them, you are going to be able to move also inside the game. Here are the STEM controllers, which not yet a user product, but we hope that the Oculus just makes them better in their own Oculus Touch product. This is the Kinect, which we already use, and you're going to see its usage in the demo right there. And also another one, which is for the brand to show people themselves. So we make digital advertising using this. But we keep them short in order to make nice circulations. For example, inside 6 hours or 8 hours a day, we need to get much more people than a normal game. So we keep our games 2 or 3 minutes, where you can just enjoy that 2 or 3 minutes demo, and that's enough for us. Okay then, if there are no more questions, it's thank you.
Demoları deneyebiliriz artık. Bir demo burada olacak. Dinosaur Island 2 demosu burada olacak ama diğer demoları içeride deneyimleyebilirsiniz. Sami, would you like to add something? Yeah, just one more thing.
So, just very quickly, we have a Facebook group, VR Turkey, VRT. Just look on Facebook, you'll find us. Join us, we're sharing all our events, we're sharing all our activities, news, etc. It's the best way of connecting with the virtual reality community. So thank you for your attention. We now have demos happening next door, we have demos happening here, so yeah.
Burada yaşıyor. Bana